Greetings, Legionists, Loyalists, Traitors, Xenos, and other sort of entities of Warhammer 40k. This is Arndelft. So, I've been tossing around an old story that I created a long time ago that I did feature in part on this channel before, that I lost a long time ago. And I've been wanting to, at least in some part, recreate. And I'm just getting kind of the rough draft of it out there. So, essentially speaking, going to the core of the story, which takes part in the Horus Heresy, which, of course, you know, no one but the Chosen of the Black Library may actually write in. This is just a fan fiction of mine. But the Horus Heresy, it takes place where there is a fleet commander who is ordered by Horus during the time where Horus has already technically fallen, but he hasn't revealed himself. Isfan hasn't happened. He's just, you know, he's gone evil and all that crap. And he orders this fleet way out, like, further than most have ever gone before. And his reasons are quite specific. There is a solar system out there that has reached a complete and total epoch. They have reached a level of, dare I say, technology to rival, if not surpass, the first golden age of man, and far surpasses the level of technology of the current Imperium of Man. Mind you, their military was immensely weak because they are in such an isolated area. And had been unable to reach out. They had discovered warp travel, but unable to truly tap into it due to the reason for their isolation. That being an extremely powerful, localized warp storm around them that formed almost a bubble. It was like the eye of a storm, perfectly right there around that solar system. And this warp storm would occasionally reach out, expanding outward like a blooming flower. And like a whirlpool, anything that it caught, it would grab and pull in. And that's what happened to this expeditionary fleets that Horus ordered out there. They got caught in it, and as it retracted back, it pulled them in. And once they were, you know, got sucked into the eye of the storm and realized, you know, we can't go back out there, we'll be destroyed, they drop out of warp into the solar system itself. And as they dropped into, you know, this perfect calm of reality and looked around, they came into contact with this civilization that had reached such a magnificent level of technology. Now, remind you, the Imperium of Man isn't at their level of technology, but military-wise, their ships did easily surpass these people. They existed in a level where they had no hatred, where they had no fear. And it was a strange thing for the Imperium to even encounter this. It was like, you have no even disputations among yourselves. They'd reached this level of practical human ascension that was beyond comprehension, even for this second golden age of man. Where they were sometimes having to forcibly conquer many solar systems and things like that. And when they came into contact with them, they were overjoyed. They said, we would have been wanting to not only get in contact with other humans, but get in contact with Earth again, and you're from Earth. And it was this joyous meeting. And they were like, yes, we will completely join your Imperium. We are happy to do so. And this was the most any expeditionary fleet commander could ever hope for. And he theorizes in his head, oh, this is why Horus sent us out here. Oh, you know, this is absolutely wonderful. I don't know how he knew about them out here, but he did. And he was trying to contact Horus for some time as he got to know these people and whatnot. And he had gone several stages into converting them into an imperial system when he finally got back into contact with Horus. And what he didn't know by this time was that Horus, Istvan had happened, the Horus Heresy was fully underway, and that, the galaxy was changing. But he was so isolated at this point, only Horus knew he was out there. and there was no way for anyone else to really know, and he wasn't trying to get a hold of anybody else. He was only trying to get a hold of Horus. Well, when he does get a hold of Horus, Horus gives him orders which tear him into pieces. Horus orders him to pull all his forces off of these planets, all his people, all his men, and to begin to systematically wipe them out. To go from planet to planet to planet with his fleet and destroy them. To first spread out his fleet and to, without any warning to these people, wipe out their defenses. You know, what defenses they had to destroy them. And since they'd had time to get to know these people, study their technology and whatnot, they now had an innate understanding. So what defenses they could have had to have held off the Imperial ships were destroyed in the opening volleys or in acts of sabotage, where they would, you know, they came down in peace and laid bombs and crap like that. And once that was done, this great betrayal, they then began to systematically wipe out each one of these worlds. And when all was said and done, when the dust settled and these planets were either completely devoid of human life or had become uninhabitable with cracked plus or destroyed atmospheres, he then contacted Horus again and said, "They're all dead. We have done as you have ordered." And Horus laughed and said, "And you're dead too." And that was when rifts began to open up on their ships and demons began to pour on, and they began to be slaughtered en masse, and yeah, they were wiped out. And at the culmination of this, this was birthing an entity which was going to be similarly to how Slaanesh was born from the fall of the Eldar. This was going to be born from the fall of humanity, from what it was to what it becomes. Now, I'm not going to give any spoilers from the first Heretic. Okay, well, spoiler alert for the first Heretic, a Horus heresy novel by Aaron Dembski-Bowski. Anyway, the first Heretic. Sorry if I butchered your name there. But basically, when Slaanesh was birthed from the fall of the Eldar, what was expected was that the Eldar would basically become, you know, worshippers of Slaanesh and that kind of thing. And instead, they grew terrified. They didn't understand what was happening. Their ignorance had brought them to that point. And it was considered an affront to the denizens of the warp that the Eldar acted the way that they did. And, you know, when this was going to happen with humanity, one of the plans was that Horus would help steer humanity to worshipping this entity that was going to be birthed from their fall and rise like a phoenix from the ashes. And as this was planned and plotted, of course things didn't go according to plan, at least for Horus, and he was struck down, and there was no one else who ended up surviving, or for that matter caring, who knew about that entity out there that was being birthed from the fall of humanity, and humanity didn't fall. Now, instead of falling into forgetfulness and dying, this creature managed to live in a state of sentience, but not ascension, isolated in this warp storm that was like a cocoon for it. It's birthing, its womb, if you will. And it never actually managed to be birthed. It just laid out there, practically forgotten. But because of the hatred and fear of the Imperium, it managed to live off of that, because that was what's going... As Slaanesh lives off pain and pleasure, Nurgle, death and decay, Tzeentch, change, and Khorne, you know, blood and violence and all that, this thing was going to live off of hatred and fear. And it managed to live off of what it was getting from humanity to a point, except for the fact of the devotion and the fanatical zeal that was being directed towards the Emperor, especially by the 32nd millennium. And that robbed it of being able to slowly build up power over time. Now this has finally been broken, here in this 41st millennium, where the this massive rift has cracked the galaxy essentially in half, and this terror has swept across the entire galaxy as thousands upon millions of worlds have been cut off from the Imperium, gone silent, and been consumed by the war and demons and crap like that. This entity is building up power and it's growing, and will eventually, if with this continuation, be able to ascend, and there will be a fifth entity amongst the Dark Pantheon, and that's what this creature is aiming for. And if it continues to go the way that it is, it will eventually be able to gain that. Now, one of the mainstays currently is Gilliman. He is thwarting it without even knowing it at every turn, where fear becomes rife in so many different areas. He appears as a beacon of hope, which is a complete anathema to this creature. It can't stand it, and that's like a stabbing wound in its side. For every world that's consumed by terror, fear, and hatred, Gilliman shows up on another to save it and bring up hope and salvation. And it's basically, it hates Gilliman with a passion. And Gilliman, ironically, isn't even aware of its existence. And it's continually trying to gain power and grow, and being thwarted from not quite reaching its goal, because Gilliman keeps showing up in certain areas and thwarting it left and right. So this is currently what's going on in my fan fiction that I'm redeveloping and growing, especially now that we've arrived at this stage in the in Warhammer 40K. And I'm very excited for where this potential idea might grow in the future, and I'm looking for ideas and people's thoughts. Do you have any particular feedback on this? I would love to hear from you in the comment section below. Please leave any ideas, likes or dislikes or whatnot in the comment section. And if you did indeed like this, go ahead and support the video by throwing a like down. I would seriously appreciate it. If you disliked it, please let me know why. What concepts didn't you like? What did you like? And if you're new to the channel and genuinely enjoy this kind of content, please consider subscribing. Now, in any case, don't y'all get into too much trouble or do. It's always up to you. Toodles.